Hi guys, it's Courtney and I'm freezing cold outside because I can't film inside, but I thought I'd do 10 questions that my friend Felica submitted to me. So it's kind of a collaboration. I hope you don't mind the format. I'm still getting kind of used to editing videos. So I'm going to try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. I hope you enjoy.
So how do you keep the attention of your pet while you're trying to train them?
Keep a dog's attention with treats. Some dogs are food motivated. Others, like Ostel, she's very treat motivated and will only do tricks for treats and will only train if you have treats. You can't really train her unless you've got treats. Unlike my other dog Kaya, who was very trainable without treats. It depends on the dog and you kind of have to feel them out, because some dogs respond better to treats and it's an easier way to train them, while others seem to gravitate towards positive reinforcement, which if you're training with treats should be given anyway, because positive reinforcement enforces what you're trying to teach the dog. So for instance, say you want to train them sit and they're not doing it when you tell them to do it, or they don't know what you're trying to say, and you whip out the treats and you say sit, and the dog, you push their butt down and they sit and you reward them. The treat is just another like part of positive reinforcement. I would suggest like chicken treats or beef treats to start with, because anything that has a very pungent smell, they're more likely to like react for. Ostel's very stubborn. She doesn't like to work without treats, as I'm learning, because I've never had a dog that isn't treat motivated, is only treat motivated. Kaya would work with positive reinforcement. So it just depends on the dog, and every dog is different. If you're gonna do treats, be sure that every time you train them starting out, you have treats, because because dogs are very single-minded when it comes to training. Sometimes they only focus on what you're telling them, or they'll focus on everything else around them, like Ostel is doing right now. And that's probably more the answer to the question you're looking for, is like in a really distracting environment, how do you keep a dog's attention? And the answer is treats. And then when the treats don't work, you put them on a long 20-foot leash, and when they start not listening to you, you yank the leash. Not hard, but enough to be like, hey, I'm still here, why aren't you listening to me, kind of thing. And it usually keeps their attention. I'm struggling keeping Ostel's attention because she's very ADD, and it's very difficult for her to focus on just me when we're outside. Inside, it's not a problem. She can do tricks all day long inside. But as soon as we walk out the door and I want to train her, I haven't quite mastered that yet. So it's been kind of a learning experience for me as well, because like I said, Kaya was very easy to train and her mind was very easy to train, and we could go outside and she was ready to work. Where Ostel, as soon as you walk out the door, she thinks it's a playground. It's like taking her to the dog park. She doesn't quite understand that she still has to listen to me at the dog park. So there's my answer for that. I hope it helped.
Do treats or the clicker work better for you?
I've tried clicker training for a little while, and again, it depends on the dog. Kaya was treat trained. Ostel is treat trained. I think the owner who had her before me treat trained her, because she just does not respond to a clicker. And in my experience of training dogs since I was little, I found treats work better than clickers. For some people, clickers work better, but it's all about the timing with a clicker. Where with a treat, you kind of have a little more lenience in your reward time. With a treat, you can let them hesitate for a second before you reward them to make them think that you're not going to reward them. Or with a clicker, every time they do something, you have to click, or they won't say, oh, this means good. You know what I mean? This means something good's coming. So my suggestion would be treat training, because it's just easier and you can manicure it so the way you want it, where with a clicker you can't really do that, because clickers, like I said, they have to be right on that mark when they do the trick, where treats do too. But what I mean is, like, they have to, with a treat, they know you have it, so they're gonna listen to you better. Or with a clicker, they never know if they're gonna get a treat or you're just clicking because they did it because it was good. A clicker really isn't a reward to a dog. Some dogs respond very well to clickers. Mine, not so much. Kaya was not clicker trained, she was treat trained, and every trainer around here that I know, they do treat training because they respond so much better to it. And clicker training isn't really, it's more old-fashioned and for like professionals. I don't consider myself a professional dog trainer. I consider myself a hobbyist dog trainer. So I think treat training's better, especially if you're just starting out with a puppy, because puppies don't normally understand clickers. They understand rewards. They don't understand, oh, if you click it means I get something good. So my suggestion would be treat training. I don't know if you'd like to try a clicker or not, but my suggestion as a trainer would be treat training. Clickers are great if you're training for like dog shows and stuff, but realistically, treats are better.
What is the best kind of collar or leash to use?
This is a very good question because everybody's always wondering what kind of collar should I put on my dog, which can I train with, what do I do? And I found that choke chains work the best if you're training. I'm using a Halti right now on Austell because she pulls when she walks, but I've found choke chains, if they fit right with the dog, like Austell's size is an 18-inch, but it's very small, little circle, so she responds when you pull it. A lot of people will tell you that choke chains are cruel and they shouldn't be used, and I know a lot of dog trainers around where I live and they swear by choke chains. The trainer that I get mentored by, she doesn't believe in Haltis, so I'm kind of mixing both of them. I like Haltis myself. I've never used one. This is the first dog I've used one on, and I really am enjoying having a Halti for her because it gives you more control. For just a regular ordinary collar, I'd suggest a martingale. They're the kind that they use for greyhounds, and they've become more mainstream over the years. It's kind of like a choke chain, except it's a collar. I'll have a whole video about them later, but they're very good and they stay on a lot better because when you pull where the tags go, they tighten, so they're not going to sneak out of it. But yeah, that's my suggestion. I wouldn't, like, the clip collars are good, but the dogs slip out of them very easily. Choke chains are good for training. I wouldn't use a prong collar because they're just cruel. Especially when you pull them and they put the prongs in the neck. They're just cruel. But choke chains are alright as long as you use it the right way, because a choke chain can be used the wrong way as well. And a lot of people get power from using a choke chain and they think they can just rip the dog's neck and it'll listen, and they don't. But a choke chain and a martingale collar is what I would suggest. And I think for a little baby puppy, I'd use a clip collar, but as it gets older, probably like 4 or 5 months, I'd switch over to a martingale just so that it can get used to it.
What tone of voice should you use while you're training your pet?
For tone of voice, I'd say always use a very loving, very kind, very happy, come here baby, come here, oh hi Del, oh hi baby. Because dogs always respond to very happy voices. They like to be in a good mood. If you're going to yell at your dog, it's not going to respond very well. Especially if you're just starting with a puppy, they don't really respond well to voices that are like, you bad dog, you bad dog. You always got to keep like a happy voice. Like, Ossie, what a good girl. Oh, Ossie's such a good girl. See? Come here, Ossie. Come here, Ossie. And she comes right away. If I go, Austell, come. Austell, come. She hesitates and doesn't come right up to me. As you can see. Ossie, come here, Ossie, Ossie, Ossie. See? But if I go, Austell, come. Austell. See how reserved she is and not excited to come to me? You gotta keep it positive. Dogs don't like to be punished, and especially with Austell being abused in her history. I try to keep as much of a good high-pitched voice as I can, because I don't want her to think that I'm mad at her, because then the training just hits a roadblock and you're done. Because Austell can only train for a little while and then she's done, so I like to keep it as positive as possible and try to keep her mood high and her excited while trying to keep me getting what I need done. So that's my answer for that.
How should you get your pet to like car rides instead of being terrified the whole time?
This is a really good question, because I had this struggle with Austell and she made it very difficult. I had to lift her into the car every time we went to get in the car because she hated being in cars. I don't know if it's because she was thrown out of a car or what, but she just would not. Every time the car would start, she'd cower, and we could not, for the life of us, get that dog into the car without carrying her. Well, what we started doing was we wouldn't start the car right away. We'd lure her in with a treat, and every time she went into the car with the treat, we'd reward her heavily. And then eventually she started doing it on her own when she realized that, oh, well, they're leaving, so I don't get in the car, I'm not going to get to go. And so eventually she learned that the car wasn't going to hurt her, or that it was mostly fear of when the car started, the loud noise the engine and the muffler make, that got her, because she'd always get in after it was started. And once we realized that it was when it started that made her afraid, we figured out that it works better to know that you can treat her into the car. So we tried that, and it worked, and now she'll happily jump in the car by herself, which is good. If you're still struggling and the dog won't do it themselves, mostly just coax them in by picking them up and putting them in and saying good when they get out of your arms. It's a slow process, and like Austell, who's maybe been abused or dropped out of a car or thrown out of a car, for example, probably it would have took a lot longer if I wouldn't have realized that that was what the problem was. But now she's completely fine. She'll jump in a car on her own all she wants. It just takes time, and with a puppy, if you're getting a newborn puppy, you'll be able to condition them to get into the car. Now, behavior for the car inside the car is different depending on how a dog acts in the car. Austell is great. She just sleeps. She don't care about being in the car. She'll just lay down. Now, if a dog is scared while they're in the car, what you do is you go for short trips around your neighborhood and just let them know they're okay. You can't force a dog to be okay to be moving not of their free will. If you think about it, a car is a weird concept, because to the dog, they're moving but they're not walking. So it's kind of weird to them. I can understand being scared of that. So my suggestion would be to just go for short trips until they get used to it, like to the store up the road or around the block at least, just until they're comfortable and they feel safe and like nothing's going to happen to them. Because usually puppies are scared of cars. All my dogs rode really well, but it took a while for them to get there. You tend to see it in puppies because they're not quite sure. But as far as that goes, you just, like I said, it takes time, and treats are your friend. Just get them comfortable and let them know that it's okay. And if you have little kids in the car with you, the dog will see that the kids are okay and they're not scared, so why am I scared? So there's that.
How do you get your pet to like to play in water and not just drink it?
This is a really good question too, because I had this problem with Austell. We went to the dog park and she would not go in the water. They have a little dock that all the dogs jump off, and my dog was standing there like, what do I do? What do I do? And some dogs just don't like water. My suggestion would probably be to put a long leash on your dog and go into the water with them if you can. And when the lead gets taut, kind of pull them in, but not, and make it so that they're doing it of their own will, not because you're forcing them. And once they get paws in the water, reward them. Tell them, good dog, because they at least put their paws in the water. And then you'll progress to having their whole body in the water. And they might not like it at first because it's like taking a bath, but if they see fish or something, they'll dive after them and they'll forget why, they're in the water. For Austell, it kind of was terrorizing. She got pushed off the dock by another dog and it scared her because she didn't realize she was going to fall in the water, and she fell in a place where she couldn't get back up, so I had to almost jump in and save her. Whoa, big bird. Huh. That was low. Anyway. That was unexpected. Anyway, she had to jump. I had to save her and let her know that it was okay. So she kind of is okay with water now, but I didn't have enough time to train her, so maybe if I'm home this summer I'm going to. But she kind of struggles with water. I don't know if it, again, has to do with her past or if she just doesn't like it. But it's not something I got to practice with. So, but as for a dog that has never been in water, it's kind of more difficult. You kind of have to coax them in slowly so that they're not afraid of it. And then, you know, try to like make it so that they feel safe. Go in the water with them. Pick them up and take them in the water. Force them. Because they're never going to do it on their own, and most dogs, once they do something, they know. They're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. I didn't know I could do this, you know? So sometimes you just got to pick a puppy up and put it by the legs in the water and then let it paddle. And then slowly make its way down further and further, and then it's okay. So yeah, I don't really have a good answer for that. And now I'm kind of scared there's a hawk flying over me. So...
Is crate training really necessary?
I'd say crate training is necessary. All dogs need to have a safe place to go when you're not home. It's hard because some people don't believe in crate training, where the other people are like, yes, train your crate train your dog. And for me, I always crate train my dogs because it gives them a safe place to go and it makes them feel safe when you're not home. If you associate the crate with punishment, though, don't think that dog's gonna go in there and be okay when you leave, because they're not. You have to punish them the right way. Crate training is not it's not a punishment, or the crate shouldn't be a punishment anyway. It should be a place that they can go and feel safe when it's storming or when you leave for an extended period of time. They don't suggest that you use crating for punishment. Some people do when they potty on the floor. They throw them in the crate and say, bad dog. But in my experience, that never works, because then when you leave, the dog is terrified and, oh crap, I just got punished and now they're not here, and oh my god, what do I do, kind of thing. So I'd say yes to crate training, but no to using it as a punishment. Because, and it's a good way for you if you're busy or people are coming over, you can stash the dog in a crate and they'll be fine, they'll just sleep. It keeps them contained as well. So that's my answer for that. I hope it helped.
How do you get your pet to walk with you off leash and not run away?
Start with basics. First, before you think your dog is going to be trainable to run with you off the leash like Kaya was, you need to get them trusting you and behaving on the leash. You can't just let them off the leash and think they're going to stay with you. A puppy will, because until they're about 5 or 6 months old, that's their bonding stage. So they'll stay with you, but do not think for a second once they turn a year old or young, like 6 months, they'll stay with you, because then the curiosity stage happens and they will run and they will not come back. With Austell, she's not ever off the leash because she likes to run. I don't have enough trust or training in her yet to get her off the leash. Now we know she won't run away, but she runs and there's a possibility of danger, something bad happening, like her getting hit by a car or something. So we try to keep her on a leash or in an enclosed area as much as possible. If you're going to jump right into having your dog off the leash when they turn a year old, I would make sure they know the command come, and they do it every single time, because it's that one time that something bad happens, and I've had it happen to me before. No, training a dog off the leash and to walk with you off the leash takes years. It's not something that takes a month or 2 months or 3 months. It takes years. With Kaya, it took me 3 years to get her trained well enough to where I knew I could trust her and she knew she could trust me to lead her somewhere that wasn't going to be dangerous. Kaya was always on the leash until I started just letting her, started letting her off the leash, but she listened very well. And I knew she was ready to be off the leash because we'd been training for probably 5 or 6, it was like 3 or 4 years. I trained her on the leash to stay right next to me. And then it kind of flows. It's not a thing that happens immediately, and I don't like people who think that, oh, my dog's the best behaved dog I've ever seen and he'll stay right with me, let me show you, and they take him off the leash and away the dog goes. That annoys me.
How do you keep your pet from jumping on other people to greet them?
My answer for this would be probably if people are coming over to put the dog on a leash, that way they're controlled and contained. Or if you opt out for a leash, then to treat them or to get them distracted by a treat when the people come in the door. Usually and most definitely you should have the dog set up to where they know stay when the door opens and they know not to jump on people. My thought probably would be with a leash and hold them back while the people come in the door. That's what we do. Or we lock them in another room completely. That way they're not interfering and they have time to cool down, because when somebody comes over, it excites dogs a lot. So that would be my thought for that.
How do you get your dog to quit obsessively barking, especially when the door opens and they see who is there?
And this has a lot to do with how you allow a dog to greet people. If you want them to greet them calmly and respectfully, I would again say put them on a leash. It'll take time for them to realize that they can't bark, because dogs' natural instincts are to bark when somebody comes in their territory. So the barking when people come over thing is more of a, you have to contain them in another room and tell them no and distract them with a bone. Whereas if you let them greet people but on a leash where you're holding them down, they can't really bark, and if they do, it's more of a subdued, like, oh crap, you're holding me down kind of bark. We always have let our dogs greet people and bark because it helps them kind of assert themselves as like dominant in the territory. I know a lot of people don't like it, but it also helps to alert us when people are coming in our door. I don't really have an answer for this because we've always just let our dogs bark and go crazy. Or we lock them in another room. If kids come over, we used to lock Kaya up because she was kind of snarly toward kids. But other than that, all I can say is just use a leash and practice when people come in, just to keep them calm. You know, have people come in and, you know, show them that it's not bad when people come, and maybe they'll calm down after that. Like I said, it depends on the dog. The dog reacts different ways to different things, then you kind of have to manicure your training to how they react. That was 10 questions about how to train your dog. I hope you enjoyed this. I know I'm kind of at a weird angle. I enjoyed making this video. I hope Felicia enjoyed making it with me. As you can see, I kind of changed clothes because yesterday it was freezing cold and snowing, and today it was a much nicer day, so I came out again today. There will be more videos like this. I hope you subscribe. There will be more hostile training videos coming. I have so much more stuff that I'm wanting to do, so I will see you guys on the flip side.